Welcome to the Straight from the Source's Mouth podcast. Frank talk about sex and dating.
All right. Welcome to episode number 13, Lucky 13. Today you'll hear about the idea of women dating like men from the book Date Like a Man with Liza and Mike, who are my guests tonight. And if you have not already done so, you can subscribe or follow the podcast by clicking near this podcast where you're listening. All right. And let's go ahead and get started. Liza mentioned this book and that it made a difference for her. So we'll start by asking her to describe, kind of what you got out of it, if you wouldn't mind. And thank you for being here.
So Date Like a Man was just a completely different take from the way I was raised, which was, if you were going to date someone, that you had the sincere and earnest interest in having some sort of romantic relationship with that person. And after my first divorce, I decided that I had been a part of a community where, it was largely couples. And so, of course, you get invitations to go to something, but it was expected to have like a plus one. I wasn't tremendously interested in the few folks that, I wasn't interested in long-term relationships with the couple of folks that I had dated. And so when I picked up Date Like a Man, it was just a totally different perspective of, just choose someone that genuinely interests you, even for just an event, right? And so what I would have previously considered almost a transactional approach, if I just could look at it as getting to enjoy that person's company for that particular event, it was amazing. It was just this beautiful thing of this opportunity to enjoy this person's company for just that amount of time and really treat it like it was like an opportunity to have, this private time with this human being that you didn't really know, but was perfect for like that situational. And so, or for that situation. And so it was very different than anything that I had ever previously considered. And at that time, I was in my late 20s.
So rather than assess someone for future potential, you just enjoyed the moment pretty much, and like specific to each event, kind of pick the people that would be perfect for that particular event. Does that sound right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. And Mike, do you have any thoughts on that? Is that kind of how you already did date, since it implies that you date like a man? Is that how you've always done it or heard it, or is it new to you to have this, or whatever you want to say about what she just told us?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's exactly dating like a man. No offense, Liza. It's just that women date me like this all the time. They have nothing to do, and I find them, and I'm going out with them with a specific interest in mind, and they just want to have something to do for the evening. And when they're done with the date, they had no long-term interest in me, and they toss me aside. So, I mean, to some extent, that's like dating like a man, except there's no sex. Excuse me for being so blunt, but that's my style.
Yeah. So not necessarily the ideal, but so Liza, are there any other components of it that you found as more, or did the book have specific lists of like how to date like a man, or that's kind of like the gist you got out of it?
Well, that's the overall approach, but she gets very specific about at the point where you do have a longer term interest. She talked about don't base your relationship, like some people will say, like don't base it on like a function, right? So not if especially like for folks that or like divorced with children and that type thing. Like, don't date someone because you're looking like for a good father or a good mother or whatever for your kids, right? You want to focus on that it's a genuine chemistry between the two of you. Like, one of her things is, don't make it about a thing, right? So don't, if you're like cooking or that type thing, don't, you want the total package. Like, if you're going to sincerely date someone for a genuine romantic interest, it shouldn't. And so to me, the book was kind of contradictory. It was like, okay, it's fine to go out with somebody to share a common interest, but then if you're looking for a whole relationship, then make sure that you have those different facets of your life, that they're compatible. Don't do it over like, oh, well, we both love, tennis or whatever. You've got to, for an actual relationship, it's got to be more multifaceted. So just what Mike was saying, he's like, you may go out with a woman for a specific event, or a woman may choose him or ask him to go for a specific event. But at the point where you're looking at real relationship type or compatibility, then you want to expand, and acknowledge that.
Yeah, because if you're looking for a provider who cooks, but you don't get along, it's not going to be like a long-term match. But if you are compatible first, and then they happen to be a good father or a good whatever, then that's bonus. But make sure you actually want to spend time with them and are attracted to them if you're trying to make a long-term thing, is what it sounds like to me. Any thoughts on that, Mike?
Yeah, I agree. I agree to some extent. From a male perspective, when I date somebody, I have like five, whatever. I minimize my requirements, and I'm actually formalizing them for this discussion. I don't generally, well, maybe because I've been dating for a while, I do have a kind of list in my mind, but I don't generally formalize things like, oh, I'm going to do, I need this, I need this, I need this. But, based upon my experience, I would say I keep it kind of simple as far as what I'm looking for in a date. And I'll give you the short list. It's five things.
Yeah.
I'm looking for someone that's height, weight proportional to me. I'm looking for someone that lives relatively close. I'm looking for someone whose politics are not intolerable to mine. I definitely think a woman's personality and style, how she dresses, whether she laughs at my jokes. I mean, because if she laughs at my jokes, she understands, we have some sort of understanding. And then, of course, if she has like a young children, that can be a problem, because I'm not interested in being a stepdad. So when I date like a man, and I am a man, and I'm probably as toxic as a man as you're gonna find in this area, I can go out with a woman and we can laugh and have a good time. And at the end of the night, she that's it. I don't get a second date. And I don't feel like it's because of my personality. I feel like it's because she's looking for something else. And so, as far as I agree with, Liza, as far as I agree with Liza, it's that, yes, don't make the date all about, requirements that he has to have been married. He has to have been, in a committed relationship. He has to, I don't have anything in common with anybody. I've never been married. I'm a 50-something, and I go out with women, and almost every one of them is divorced with children. And immediately I have nothing in common with them. So, I think I get summarily disregarded a lot, in part because I've never been married. I'm not divorced, right? I mean, can you imagine? So if you can just go out with someone, have a good time with them, and I've actually dated people for not a long time, but months at least, and we've had a good time together if the women were able to overcome this apprehension about all the things that on which we don't align.
Yeah, but I do like your list, and I mean, to me, that's the kind of stuff you should want from someone. And I have heard complaints from other men where, women have like a list of like 20, 25 things that they say they want. And obviously no one's, more than likely going to meet all of them. So Liza, do you have anything to say?
Absolutely not. I mean, I've actually gone out I've tried to get a date with women that they say they like Seinfeld. Well, for 20 years, for the past 20 years, people tell me I remind them of Seinfeld. I wrote to her, she ignored me. It's just like, because I wasn't this and I wasn't that and I wasn't this and I wasn't that. And granted, I'm not all of those things. I admit it, but the women that I have dated successfully, somehow or another, were able to overcome whatever differences they perceived. And we actually, I'm glad. I'm so glad I found a few people that would accept me, even though I'm different from them.
Well, I know you, and I thought you were cool. So, but Liza, do you have anything to say about, his list or anything else that he mentioned?
Well, thank you, Tamara. Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, I think it's perfect. Like, I think it perfectly aligns with Date Like a Man, because it leaves you completely open to, you first have to agree to a date, right? So even if it is for just a thing like a symphony or a, tennis or whatever, then you have to first, and so you can't have 25 things. Oh, if this guy wears, loafers instead of Oxfords, then that's definitely a deal breaker. So, right, you've got to, like, I think having a narrow list just for one or two, initial dates is just right, and it allows you to get the most enjoyment and to be open about, like, things that maybe you didn't ever think were a big deal, and then all of a sudden this person that you had a small list to consider dating them, or to consider going on an event with them or some sort of thing, and then small list up front gives you the most opportunity to meet new people and enjoy things that you just didn't know were important. So yeah, I think that's awesome that his starting out list is like 5 things.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned another book too, about having your own life first. Did you want to talk about that too? Just to kind of, it's similar.
So Get a Life and Then Get a Man is absolutely hilarious. And it just covers, so I read the Date Like a Man, and of course I was just like, oh my gosh, what an amazingly different approach. And then, because I had female friends that were not in primarily male dominated environments, they're just like, well, how do you meet these guys? Because once I embraced Dating Like a Man, then I would go to different things with different people, and I just was very happy with that. And they're like, how do you meet all these cool guys? And I was like, well, I work with not that I was dating my coworkers, but I work with people, or I'm in male dominated areas, and then I run into these people that are just interesting. And so, like, I would ask them to be a plus one for things like that. And but she covers not only like how to, if you want to meet a man, less likelihood that you're going to meet him in like knitting class than scuba class, right? So go out and live the life that you want to, right? so so if you don't want to sit around and knit with your significant other, then what would you be doing with your significant other, right? And you'd be like out, hiking, or scuba diving, or playing tennis, or whatever that person wants to do, or riding horses. But not likely to be in knitting class. So don't sit there and spend all your time in knitting class. And so it's all about having the most well-rounded life and doing everything that you've ever thought about, and just really taking the time to enjoy being single by exploring everything that you've wanted to explore. And so, and then she's just funny because she talks about, like the different, how to recognize like different personality types and that type of thing. And it's not meant as a serious like Myers-Briggs thing. It's meant as, just have fun with it, right? Is he like a Renaissance man? Is he like a, more of a salesman, that type thing? And she just makes it funny. So that was the follow on to that when women that I knew were asking me, hey, how are you meeting these guys? It's like, well, I was interested in coding, so I went to, a coding meetup and that type of thing. And so it was just a lot of fun and very interesting. And you just meet these brilliant people that love whatever they're doing enough to make a group out of it and then get together and celebrate that interest.
Yeah, because I know a lot of like that's one way to meet people is the actual app meetups, because there's like so many local events and I know a girl who loves sailing, didn't find a group, so she just created her own. And then a woman who, back a little bit to the list, the guy didn't meet two of her criteria that she normally follows, and she's now dating him for 2 years. So the whole thing of having too many lists, but yeah, definitely going out and doing the stuff you love to do, and you're more likely to meet someone who loves the same things as you and start dating. So any thoughts on that, Mike?
Of course. I totally agree that when you date somebody, I mean, you do the things you love, and then you're going to meet like-minded people. It's just a no-brainer. That's what you do. The problem is that as you get older, and especially when you're a man, I don't think men are as sociable as women are. Some men are. I'm not going to say. I tend to be a little more introverted, so I do go out, but my opportunities for meeting people are not quite as great. I've gone to the meetups, not a lot of them, maybe a half a dozen, and generally speaking, you go there to sausage party. Excuse me, but it's like all men and no, and just like maybe one or two women or three women, and then those women are like running for their lives. So I have not, but maybe other people's meetup experiences have been different. So,
Yeah.
and I want to interject this. I'm not sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I'm trying to, but there are rules are different for men and women and men dating. There are actually, you can go out, and I don't have the actual titles to tell you right now, but there are rules. If you look on Amazon, I'm sure you can find, rules for dating men written for men, and rules for dating men written for women. I screwed that up, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There are dating books for men, there are dating books for women, and they're not the same. Okay. I mean, guys, if a guy feels like you're getting too clingy, too attached to him, he's gonna run. So your best bet with men, not to be ingenuous, like this, whatever, lie to the guy and be something you're not, but to have a more relaxed approach about dating, a guy can perceive that. I've literally gone, had online. I've had online dating experiences where women will start talking to me about marriage before I've even met them. That's a surefire way to scare a guy away. If you go out with a person and you have fun with them, you go out with them a second time, and you go out with them a third time. That's how it works.
Yeah, not assessing the marriage potential
that's the way it used to work when you're younger.
Yeah.
When you're in your 20s, that's the way you date. When you're older, as I am, more mature, as they would say, women are like they're constantly, and men too. I'm guilty of it too. you have past experiences, you see certain behavior patterns, and it makes you run. And I have found that I've had successful relationships with women that really we had very little in common except for our personalities, and that turned out to be enough.
Yeah. And just enjoying yourselves. I mean, I do have to admit, I've had a sense of urgency before where for whatever reason, you just feel like, all right, this is working out. Like, let's lock this down. But yeah, it's pretty much the antithesis of what we're talking about here is, just, and I've mentioned this book a few times, but I suck at relationships. So you don't have to, where you basically act nice and enjoy yourself and go do that again. Like you were saying, just take it one day at a time and have fun. And if you have fun with someone, they're going to want to hang out with you again. Kind of simple. And Liza,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just really that simple, but it's not that simple because we all have our past experiences, baggage. So they say, I don't really have a lot of baggage. I don't have an ex-wife. I don't have children, but that becomes baggage in and of itself because women are analyzing this and saying, what's wrong with this guy? He's never been married. He has no, and so like you're overthinking something.
Yeah. Anything to say on that, Liza?
Yeah, I completely get that. I think at the point, like some people have like time limits, and I think like after they've dated somebody for like 3 months or 6 months, or I literally have had, and this is actually a male friend of mine that I've known for a couple of decades, and he was like, well, and so he would travel with this person and he would just, they would get back from these different things and they would date in, in the area. They both lived in close to each other. And he, he literally, like, he would just rave about what a great time they would have. But then, like, after they had been dating for, I don't know, like a year and a half, he's just like, well, I broke up with her because, and I was like, well, why? And he's like, well, I just didn't really feel like it was going anywhere. And I was like, you're having a great time. You're over 50. Why does it have to go somewhere? So I don't know.
Yeah, especially as we get older, if you don't want kids, like where would it go? Except for defining it, maybe. But yeah.
Yeah, I literally, I was just agape when he said that. I was like, so let me get this right. This person that you have this great time with, and you can stand like traveling with them. They went like on a 7-day cruise and all this, and I said so you can live in this tiny area with them for a week, but you want to break up.
Yeah.
So no, I don't. I do think like I have a brother that is was like in his late 40s before he ever met someone that interested in him enough where he thought about getting married. And so I get what Mike is saying about the fact that you're over 40 and you haven't been married. That could be a thing of, maybe he has commitment issues or whatever. But since, like, I've never really thought of it that way since I knew, since I had my brother, right? And he was just, he's, definitely liked women and all of that. And so it wasn't like, um, folks that are ambivalent or whatever, or they're just trying to play options. I knew he was genuinely interested in having a long-term relationship with the person. He is like no kidding a rocket scientist, and so the person had to be truly multifaceted and probably cover a wider range of the spectrum than a lot of people. And so he did end up getting married, and it lasted a few years, but she did have a child that was 8, and that did not go well. So, but I get what Mike is saying about just not having been married. People are like, well, why is that? But I don't think it's because of my brother, I know it's not, it doesn't indicate commitment issues. It just indicates that, you need a different suite of traits. So that would be my only input to that.
Yeah, like you just haven't found the person yet, potentially. Versus, I know my sister got married later, and plenty of other people are doing that. Actually, my uncle didn't get married till he was like 60 something. So, or I had a kid at 60 for the first time, and now hopefully, anyway, Mike, any thoughts on that? Or I guess we're kind of just.
I'll do my part, of course. Yeah, I have commitment issues. I admit it. All right, I have commitment issues. I've actually been on a date with someone who told me, a woman my age, and she said, women have commitment issues too. All right. So, and I said, well, how can I use this information? No, if I have commitment issues, you have commitment issues. What am I going to say to you to make you, want to date me?
Yeah, actually, I think I'm reading a book, Avoidance. It's all about attachment styles, which I've had a couple of episodes on that. And it was actually comparing which attachment styles work together. Two people that are avoidant or commitment issues pretty much won't stay together, like you said, because you're both not trying. So how would you try that hard if you're both not trying? So, yeah.
And the funny thing is I actually every once, not very often anymore, I have to admit, I'm getting older, and I think physical appearance, age, has a lot to do with things. It's my criteria. I don't think did I mention age in my criteria? I hope I did. It is a criteria, so I understand that people are picky. Women have a right to be picky. I'm picky. You don't date people that you don't, that for whatever reason you don't like them. But at the same time, we're not getting any younger.
Yeah.
If you're if you're a mature person, we're not getting any younger. When we were young, we used to just. I often say, and women probably hate me for it, that women give away their stuff like Halloween candy when they're younger. Then when they get older, they get so ultra selective. I'm not saving myself. I'm not a gigolo. I'm not successful enough to be a player. But I want to date somebody. And the last woman I dated for 10 months, almost 11. She just always, she always had one foot out the door. Whatever, she always was. We had great time together. We laughed. We had great sex. We played tennis. We did things together. We went to Home Depot. It wasn't like we were like going to Monte Carlo. It was just she lived close by. We could hang out together like pals, and we also had this sexual relationship too. But she just couldn't accept that. For some reason, I guess, whatever, I wasn't tall enough for her. I wasn't like, she would tell me she wanted she would want a guy that was, had a big truck and a big dog. Well, I have a sports car and no dog. Well, is that really what you're? I always told her, you don't value me enough, and ultimately we crashed and burned.
But you had 10 months
because I couldn't. I had 10 months of a very, I had, and I'm not talking about a good time, because we just had, a physical relationship. I had a good time with her because I really liked her. And somehow or another, whatever requirements she had, were in her mind, talking her, constantly talking her out of liking me.
Yeah. Well, people sabotage themselves, sabotage relationships, don't know what they want, think they know what they want and don't. So, but it's close to 30 minutes. So I would just do some closing comments. Liza, do you want to have any final comments or thoughts or?
No, it's great to get. I really appreciate Mike reading the book to not just to have known the content of the book and not just respond to what I had to say. And it was awesome getting to hear his take on the different aspects of dating. And so that was just lovely. And so thanks for that. And thanks to you, Tamara, for wanting to, help folks get through different bumps in dating.
Yeah, thank you. And Mike, do you have any final comments or?
I hope I reached someone in a positive way. I'm not sure if sometimes I feel like my my way of thinking is passe or not relevant anymore. I'm glad for people like Liza to promote thoughts for opening up dating, because I think as we get older, we are more introspective, we're more analytical, we're more discerning, we're more critical of everything. And if when we were younger, we went out and we had fun together, and that was what was important, and that should still be what's important. I'm a guy that I'm not necessarily looking to get married, but if I could date somebody for a length of time and earn their trust and know that we're like good together and that you're going to do your thing and I'm going to do my thing, then maybe I would get married. So sometimes there's a song, I'm forgetting the title now, but it's like hold on loosely and don't let go. It's like, yeah, just like enjoy it if you can. And I struggle with it too. I do. So just hold on loosely, enjoy it while you can. And if it gets to the point where it's just, out of bounds, or, you're absolutely, no, it's not right, then bail. There's no, I don't, for anybody.
Yeah.
But I just feel like people are throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Women are throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah. So, it's good to hear perspectives from both sides. And yeah, just if everyone had the goal of just enjoying themselves, not putting so much pressure on it, and just, seeing where it goes, I think we would all benefit from that. So thank you again, Liza and Mike. And this has been the Straight from the Source's Mouth podcast, which is frank talk about sex and dating. So thank you again.
Frank talk, sex and dating educates.